So this is my bad. I have to admit to that right up front. Sort of. I mean, it's definitely there's like a whole system of failure, but it's my bad to some extent. I'm John Stark from MacMovieGuy.com, your favorite blind film critic, and this is my review of Jane Austen, Wrecked My Life, uh, which is opening in theaters, being released this week by Sony Pictures Classics. And yep. So click like and subscribe. Let me know if you've seen or liked this movie. We're going to address some problems with this towards the end. So what is this movie about? There is a bookshop owner who is a huge fan of Jane Austen, and she, they have readings and people come and enjoy, and she wants to be a writer herself, and she's written some stuff, but she just sort of lacks the confidence to ever submit anything. And then her best friend submits stuff for her, which then gets her accepted into this writer's program. So she travels to this Jane Austen writer program thing in England, where she meets some other people and doesn't necessarily get along with them right away. And there's a guy, and obviously it's going to feel sort of like a rom-com, and things don't initially meet well, but generally opposites attract, and it'll play out exactly the way that you think a movie with Jane Austen and the title probably will play out. That's kind of the quick plot line for a nice little romp of a Jane Austen movie. The problem with that is, what I didn't talk about was, we start in Paris and we move to England. Now, I was like loosely aware of it. I don't really watch trailers anymore. I know studios are like, do we watch? I don't really watch. A lot of people don't watch trailers anymore unless we're forced to watch them. I don't know anything about the movie. And I assumed there was more English in this than there is. I was ready for maybe like a mix, knowing that some of it was in Paris, although sometimes we shoot things in international countries. So I didn't know how much was French and / English. It's far more French than it is English. However, it has a significant amount in English. So it's one of those things where it's like, it's even more so than Emilio Perez, where there's like a whole song that is in English language, which kind of stood out to me as being like, okay, so we're here and we did an entire song in English. Why was there no audio description when this film debuted? So they just pop into English when they feel like it and just start talking randomly in the film. It's kind of funny because it just sort of happens. You actually have to watch I actually sat through the whole movie to see how much English was in there. I would guess 15%, maybe as high as 20, but probably about 15% of somewhere between 15 and 20% of the dialogue is in English. So it's low, but it's also not an impossible. I've seen last year when I was going through a whole bunch of international titles that were submitted for awards consideration, I was watching a bunch of things and pulling out like the one phrase or the one word, like I sat through the whole film and this was the one thing that they said that was in English. So to sort of remind people that blind people like to watch international cinema too, it's something that Netflix is playing with, but they keep playing with the worst possible titles that they could ever choose. They're playing with these Netflix movies of the week that star no one, that are of no consequence, and they keep putting these dubbed tracks and AI audio description on it, and they're like, here. And I watch them because we have to create the metric in order to show. So I've seen Squad 36 and I Hostage and Ad Vitam and all of the crappy movies, the delicious that they've thrown at me this year. But my God, none of them are good. So I'm waiting for something to be really good and to have audio description. Now, Sony Pictures Classics arguably does put audio description on things. They're actually pretty good about it. I believe they're responsible for The Teacher's Lounge when that was an Academy Award nominated film. And last year they had it on I'm Still Here, which debuts on Netflix, I believe, around the same time this was released in theaters. So uh, I wasn't initially concerned because I was like, well, even if there are parts of it, at least I can give my thoughts and take in the gaps. You know what I'm saying? Like, I can get enough of a vibe from this movie to tell you whether or not you should go to theaters and watch it with the audio description track when it gets there, because Sony Pictures Classics, regardless of what language the movie is in, does not have an accessible platform with audio description. They do have a platform that allows for the change of audio tracks. They just don't have audio description uploaded, which is not unusual. I hate to say it. I think Paramount is the only studio that consistently gave me audio description last year. So, I it's this is the world we live in, and this is why I'm trying to say blind film critics matter, and why we should talk, and why I need to be in space is because a lot of these services aren't even set up for it to be able to watch with audio description. Then plenty of people who it's like are going to have audio description, they don't even bother to attach it to a screener, because why would they? Because who possibly could be a critic or a journalist and also have low vision, or who possibly could be in a guild and want to vote for something later on and also be blind or low vision? It's like an impossibility for people that they just don't think about, even though these films have audio description tracks. So with Jane Austen, I decided to check, and currently this film is listed as coming near me. It's listed to start playing on Friday at 2 theaters near me. Neither of them list audio description right now, which is not unusual pre-release, but generally it stays that way. Every once in a while, you'll see it like flip on audio description once they realize that they've had it, but it's generally not a good sign. So not only did I stumble into this, but I also stumbled into a movie that doesn't have audio description. So I'm saying, like, it's kind of my fault, because if I had looked ahead of time and seen, but I gave Sony Pictures Classics the benefit of the doubt, because generally they create audio description for their films. I reviewed On Swift Horses. That film has an audio description track. I did not hear it, but it has one. So, I think sort of that gets to be the problem with consistency, and whether or not you do it or don't do it, and whether or not you follow through and make sure it goes around. And I've seen so many Lionsgate video on demand straight to VOD titles this year, because Lionsgate has, for whatever reason, made a massive commitment to audio description, and also they've made it available and made sure that when these films debut on demand, that they also debut with accessibility. So it's been really easy for me to review their films, and they've garnered my attention that way, even though all of them are terrible, except for the one with Toby Kebbell. That one was good, but everything else was just... So this is probably a great movie. I probably would have really loved this movie. It, like, reading the plot, listening to other people talk about the film, it sounds like the kind of movie that I would be down for. And everybody kind of that I've seen so far acknowledges the film is a little bit like an old school rom-com. It's the kind of thing, somebody said it, compared it to something that maybe like Sandra Bullock and Hugh Grant would do, which, lovely, so my biggest takeaway was I love the score. The score for this is delightful, but yeah, there's a whole bunch of this that I couldn't understand because it's not in the language, and I joke about it with Spanish stuff, because my Duolingo score is like a 30. I did sort of start learning French also, but my score is a 10. So those are like the two languages I'm working on, because it seems to affect the most languages. Also, if I need to move out of the country, it opens up the world of possibilities. But yeah, I mean, I'm talking like I picked up a word here and there. like maybe a couple times. So, yeah, not a lot. There wasn't much I was able to do. So, what am I going to say about Jane Austen Wreck My Life? I'm going to say Sony Pictures Classics needs to come through with audio description uh, and put it on movies on a consistent basis. That's the thing. It's like it's Sony. Like it's not like these films are low budget. And there are low budget films that do have audio description. There are films that come along and they just budget for it and they put it together and they package it and they send it out. It's rare, granted, but it does happen. There are films that go to these festivals before they've ever been picked up, and they make sure that they have the accessibility when they go to like Sundance. So if those films can premiere at Sundance and they have like no budget or distributor, and they've managed to have an audio description track in advance, the bigger question is why can't Sony Pictures Classics put audio description on a title that they're releasing at least moderately wide? I mean, it is coming here and not just New York, LA. So, and while I live in a major market, I don't live in one of the first major markets to get a film like this. So, should you check out Jane Austen? If you're sighted, it's probably a pleasant romantic comedy that you have to read the subtitles. But then if you start getting into like low vision to where you need to read the subtitles, the question is if you can't read the subtitles and you're at a point where you would need audio description to read them for you, then no. Because that's the other thing about audio description is it's not just for blind people, it's also for people who simply can't read the subtitles. Their vision is poor enough that to have to read a movie the whole time. There are a whole bunch of people who can see well enough and walk around and who have more vision than me, but they also can't read the subtitles. So because their vision is too poor, and those people would benefit from audio description. A lot of those people are old and would enjoy a nice French romantic comedy. So I think there are a lot of thoughts here about target audiences, demos, who are we pulling in, and what kind of audience are we leaving out? And I don't think those are the kind of conversations that Sony Pictures Classics is having, and I wish that they would have it. So that's kind of what I wanted to have, kind of biting the hand that feeds me here. But as a critic, we can't do that thing where we're like so happy to have advanced screeners and so happy to have like the love and connection that we just ignore all of the things that need to be talked about or should be talked about, as long as we talk about them in meaningful ways. Accessibility is still very important, and audio description is still a thing that drives me as a film critic. It's one of the reasons why there should be a blind film critic on Rotten Tomatoes, which I'm trying to do. So we'll see where that goes. I don't know. I don't have a grade for this. It's unwatchable due to lack of audio description, which is exactly what I would say for basically any film that wasn't in the English language. There were films that, even though I vibed with them and I knew exactly what they were about, I couldn't ever do anything with them because they didn't have audio description. There were plenty of international titles that I would listen to other people talk about and I'd be like, oh my God, that's what that movie was about. That's what I was listening to. And I couldn't do anything with it because it never got an audio description. And it keeps me out of the conversation. There's only just so much I can ever do with it. So it's this entire medium that seems like it's outside of our reach at a time in which that our president is toying with the idea of putting like tariffs on international film because of the messaging that they're coming from. What's the messaging here? It's a delightful French rom-com about a girl who likes Jane Austen and gets an opportunity to join a writing program. The fuck messaging, Send this movie over here so that people can see that international film is not this boogeyman. It's not this scary thing that's going to radically change the way that people think. But it might just open up somebody culturally in a way that it makes it all worth it. So that's what I'm doing, is to try to ask for that, because I think having slightly different perspectives and not consistently an American one is really valuable. Anyway, thanks for watching. Thanks for subscribing. And I will see you guys on the other side.